Yo guys, what's up? Nature, welcome back to the channel. Today we're checking out a brand new synthesizer from Cherry Audio. It's a continuation from their Polymode module that was available for Voltage Modular. Of course, it's now a standalone product and obviously based on the Moog Polymoog. The Polymoog, a little bit of history, it was among the first sort of polyphonic synths to ever hit the market, along with like the Korg PS3200. It had quite a bit in common with sort of the string machines of the time as well, like the Selena and so forth. It's a bit of an oddball synth as well, and not your typical Moog design. In fact, it wasn't actually designed by Bob Moog at all. It was designed by David Luce at Moog Music. And it's an interesting synth to say the least. Now, I'll admit, the Polymoog I've always been aware of. I know what it sounds like, but it's never been a synth that I've been incredibly interested in programming. Until I got my hands on this. Cherry Audio were very kind enough to send me a copy, and this is not a sponsored video, by the way. As always, my opinions are my own, but I did sit down and play around with this and had an immense amount of fun programming this synth. There's one particular thing where it absolutely shines, and that's in designing beautiful pad sounds. Tell you what we're going to do is we're going to dive in, we're going to take a look at the sort of overview of the synth, some of the original classic sounds that it shipped with, and then we'll build some sounds for it and see what we come up with. Right, so here we go guys, this is the Polymode from Cherry Audio. I'm not going to cover this functionality at the top again. I did this in previous videos that I did for the CA2600 and DCO106, both which are incredibly good synths as well. Again, at an incredible price rate, same with Polymode. So yeah, you can go check those out on the channel if you'd like. Let's dive into how this all works. So a lot of the stuff that you see along the top half is from the original synth. Now there was actually two synthesizers in the Polymoog line, the Polymoog synthesizer and the Polymoog which was released later, which is essentially just a preset machine. This is obviously based on the synthesizer, however it does have the Vox Humana preset in here as well, which was added later on in the second series. These are not really presets the way they were on the original machine. They basically house sort of custom filter curves from those presets, which can be used as sort of like a preset EQ and then mixed in with the various signals that you have here. We'll come to that in a bit though. Let's just quickly take a look before we kind of move on. We'll take a look at some of the original factory presets that are included from this section here. We'll take a listen to these strings first. The piano, and the very, very famous Vox Humana preset that was used by a lot of artists on some big classic tracks, Gary Newman, for example. Let's check this one out. So there you got a taste of these sort of original sounds, but Polymode is capable of a whole lot more thanks to this whole modulation section down at the bottom, as well as some additional effects that we have on hand. We've got reverb, delay, a phaser, and a chorus or ensemble. We've got two additional modulators or LFOs essentially down at the bottom here. One of the things I really like about this is the amount of modulators that are on hand for each of the sound sources and filters, etc. But you do have these additional ones here. The nice thing about these is that they can be synced as well, whereas the others do not sync. But these ones can be synced to clock, as well as they're having various different shapes, you know, from triangle to S&H. In two of those, these can easily be signed via this modulation matrix here. You've got white noise source, pink noise source, DC as well. Some other stuff that you can assign, various envelopes, etc. So that's nice to have. It really extends the range of the synth quite a bit. So let's take a look at the signal flow, because this is quite interesting and where it differs a lot from other synths. You've got this master gain section here, which is essentially 4 different signal paths that you can mix together. You start off with the rank 1 and rank 2. These are slightly strange terms for oscillators, essentially. This is oscillator 1 and oscillator 2. Both are capable of a saw wave and a pulse wave, or both simultaneously. It has pulse width modulation, and these two are then fed through the mixer here, and then the signal is split into 4 different ways. In the case of Polymode, would be 3 in the original. Namely, it runs into the resonator section, which is essentially a EQ/filter section that can be modulated. You've got 3 different bands. It can be run in low band, notch, and high pass modes, and you've got a 12 dB and 24 dB resonant filters for that. You also have a VCF section over here, which is a low pass filter. This one can be controlled by the VCF envelope down here. And then lastly, you've got the mode filters, which, as I explained, are sort of preset EQ curves from the original presets. And then the 4th one is the direct signal path as well. So you've essentially got these running in parallel to each other, and it generates some pretty interesting sounds and effects and combinations, as opposed to a normal synth that would kind of run in a linear fashion through the VCF and then to the VCA. You've got this kind of weird mixer vibe going on there, which is interesting. So like I said, one of the places that this thing really shines for me, and that I had a lot of fun in with programming this, is creating pad sounds, and mostly due to the amount of modulation that you have. They're all different and they're all free running as well, so you get some really organic sounding, thick pad sounds. I think let's just jump into a initialized preset. I'm going to start off and just kind of create some pads with this. So let's just take a listen to oscillator 1 first. I've got just a saw wave up there. We'll dial in some pitch modulation, or FM. So listen to the interesting sort of beating that we get between the oscillators now when we bring in the second saw wave, and we'll adjust the FM rate for that as well, but then we'll bring that down. So you get some really interesting movement between the two. I'm actually going to modulate, we'll bring down a slow one, yeah, and we're going to modulate the rate as well further with modulated 2. So we'll get even more of a sort of variation between the two. Let's bring in a pulse wave. You have pulse width modulation on this. We'll just set up our envelopes to create something that's a little bit more pad sounding. So you've got an attack and then a decay and release together, and then the sustain level as well. And this is velocity sensitive, so you can dial in the amount of velocity that you would use on that envelope. Let's take a look now at the various different signal paths. We have currently the dry or direct signal enabled. We'll take that one down. Let's take a listen to the modes. We'll run that through the resonator section now as well. We'll take a listen to the different modes. Let's stick with the band pass. So this, what we're doing here is essentially these presets that you have here, but now you actually have two of them because they've saved the original factory presets for the resonator in these. So you can actually set up your own resonator and then use that in conjunction with the presets. I'm going to apply some modulation to this as well to get some nice movement going here. Let's check out the filter section now. We'll bring that one up. We can apply some of the VCF to that. Let's bring up the attack and the release. All right, let's start adding some bells and whistles on this. Let's bring back some of these signal paths, and let's get this into something nice, big stereo pad sounds. We'll bring in a delay. Play around with the filter now as well. We'll bring in some of modulator 1 and let's set that to a sample and hold. We do have a sample and hold here, however this one is syncable, so we'll use this one instead. It's a lot of fun to play with this, and it's got that sort of old school string synth sound to it. Like I said, very much like these sort of Selenas of the day and similar sounding synths. I'll play you one or two other presets. It is very capable of doing sort of bass sounds and lead sounds as well, but I really love playing around with the pad sounds in this. Let's check out some of the lead or spectral bass. Let's try that. Let's try the leads. Cool, so there you have it. I will say I do think this is kind of a niche instrument. It's not going to be like your go-to synth for everyday use. But if you're looking for something with a whole lot of character and that sort of retro vintage sound, this is a great option. Also, like I said, the introduction prices for a lot of Cherry Audio stuff is just, it's so good. It's $30, $39 I think for on intro. And it really is pretty great value for money. Go check out the CA2600 and the DCO106 as well. Both really great synths. Otherwise, you can get them as a package, I believe, as well, called Synth Stack, which will come with 3 different synths all bundled together. Great, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope if you guys enjoyed this content that you don't mind leaving us a like, subscribe if you can, and hit that notifications bell. You know the drill, it helps out the channel loads, so that's why we ask. I will be back again soon with you guys. Till then, take care, stay safe.